Today, photography is arguably the most accessible art form. Everybody owns a camera, as we carry around this thing 24/7 in our pocket and use the camera on an almost daily basis. But what distinguishes a snapshot picture with our smartphone from fine art photography? And moreover, who are the most influential fine art photographers today? Welcome to the top 20 most famous fine art photography artists in the world. Fine art photography is a contemporary art form in which photography is the medium and the photographer acts as the artist. The intention of the photographer is to go beyond registering reality in order to achieve photographs with an artistic character. For instance, if I would take a photograph of my dog sleeping in a cute position, then it would be very obvious and clear that the photograph in question is not a piece of fine art photography. Whereas with the photograph by Wolfgang Tillmans titled Your Dogs from 2008, it is very clear and obvious that something more is going on than just registering reality. The overall aesthetics of the black and white photograph, the play of light and dark, with the shade on the sidewalk in sharp contrast with its sunny counterpart at the top right. And above all, the composition of the photograph, in which the chosen angle results in a curved shape of the two dogs. The main difference is of course the intention of the artist. When taking a photograph of our dog sleeping in a cute position, we are capturing a memory visually. Whereas the photograph by Tillmans is the result of the artist's quest for an artistic composition, finding beauty which excels above the ordinary. Even more, with fine art photography, the printing and editing process for the artist is as important as capturing the picture at the decisive moment. Fine art photography takes in all formal aspects, creating an artistic object instead of merely a picture. In this video, we are pleased to present you the most complete and recent online resource on fine art photography, presenting the top 20 of the most influential fine art photographers in the world. Very often, multidisciplinary artists implement photography into their artistic practice. However, we have decided to exclude these artists, focusing merely on pure artistic fine art photographers, with two justified exceptions. But first, let's start with some very honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions.
Lee Friedlander, known for his humorous and poignant images, expressing the chaos of city life. Dense natural landscapes, up to group and self-portraits since the 1960s. Robert Frank and his black and white pictures depicting typical American symbols. Think of highways, cars, jukeboxes and more. Alan Sekula, who aimed to figure out how the photographic medium contributed to the reigning social order, which brought struggle to his family's social position and how one could use it to undermine it. Or Alfred Stieglitz, with whom the photographic practice was presented as a labor-intensive craft, which resulted in a greater influence for the artist's hand.
20. Reineke Dijkstra.
We open the top 20 with the truly mesmerizing photographs by the Dutch fine art photographer Reineke Dijkstra. Born in 1959 in Sittard, the Netherlands, Dijkstra is best known for her utmost contemporary portraits, reminiscent to 17th century portrait paintings from the Low Countries. Her large-scale photographs with bright and sharp colors typically depict adolescent subjects. The setting is in many ways more minimal than one would think at first glance. Dijkstra moves the focus of the photograph strongly to the subject and his or her exchange with the photographer and the viewer.
19. Diane Arbus.
Born in 1923 in Manhattan, New York, and passed away in 1971 in the Westbeth Artist Housing in New York, Diane Arbus is one of the most original and influential photographers of the 20th century. She rose to fame with her photographs in the 1960s, with her efforts being strongly rewarded in 1966 with the John Simon Guggenheim Fellowship. The American fine art photographer depicts couples, children, New York City pedestrians, families, celebrities, and much more, as she captures the post-war American social sphere through her lens. The end result is an oeuvre depicting a constitute, diverse, and above all compelling portrait of humanity.
18. Walker Evans.
Up next, we encounter another iconic photographer with arguably one of the most iconic photographic portraits of the 20th century, Walker Evans. Born in 1903 in St. Louis, Missouri, and passed away in 1975 in New Haven, Connecticut. Evans is one of the most influential photographers, as his crystal-clear photographs inspired an entire generation. From the aforementioned Diane Arbus up to the to-be-mentioned Bernd and Hilla Becher. Throughout his career, Evans recorded modern America with a poetic whiff to it. Marked by a documentary character, he depicted ordinary subjects. One of the greatest examples is his portrait of a tenant's former wife from 1936, one of the most iconic photographic images ever.
17. Bernd and Hilla Becher.
Bernd Becher, born in 1931 in Siegen and passed away in 2007, and Hilla Becher, born in 1934 in Berlin and passed away in 2015, was a German artist duo and couple occupied with fine art photography since 1959. They are internationally lauded for documenting architectural forms, which they called to be anonymous sculptures. Doing so, over 30 years, they systematically photographed in their very own and particular manner a wide range of often industrial architectural archetypes, encompassing water towers, coal mines, houses of mine workers, and more. Bernd and Hilla Becher present us an extensive visual study on the architectural relationship between form and function.
16. Catherine Opie.
Born in 1961 in Sandusky, Ohio, and currently working and residing in Los Angeles, is an industry-leading photographer who started taking pictures from her 9th birthday as she was given a Kodak Instamatic by her parents. Ever since, she has been utterly fascinated with documenting specific communities up to this very day, depicting her family, friends, and other communities in and around Los Angeles, but has also a very strong affinity towards landscape photography. As a result, her project-based practice extensively takes on various subjects, from American highways up to lesbian couples in their homes.
15. Carrie Mae Weems.
Born in 1953 in Portland, Oregon, and currently residing and working in New York, Carrie Mae Weems is another highly influential American fine art photographer. She can be seen as a visual rhetorician, tackling subjects in all their complexity, presenting deeply stirring results. The American artist gives a voice to those who have been ignored, investigating history, power, and identity. Carrie Mae Weems is intrigued with how personal experiences and larger structures or institutions are connected with one another, shaping our lives and society.
14. Henri Cartier-Bresson.
Born in 1908 in Chanteloup in France and passed away in 2004 in Ile-sur-la-Sorgue. Henri Cartier-Bresson is one of the most important photographers in the world from an art historical perspective. His works are marked by lively black and white pictures, combining a documentary character with a poetic touch. Cartier-Bresson is best known for his concept, which he calls le moment décisif, or the decisive moment. According to the French photographer, the key to a successful picture is to snap the shutters of the camera at the exact right time. His work behind the camera and beyond has defined the field of photography throughout the 20th century up to this very day.
13. Jeff Wall.
Born in 1946 in Vancouver, Canada, where the artist continues to reside and work up to this very day, Jeff Wall is a highly established artist and fine art photographer, combining cinematography with photography, in which he synthesizes the essentials of the medium of photography with other forms of art. In contrast to many of the aforementioned photographic artists from this list, from this particular generation, Jeff Wall strongly contributed to the establishment of color as a key aspect of the aesthetics of photography. His works are often, as Wall states himself, nearly documentary. The works seem to be documentary photographs, however, his pictures are staged, as he works in collaboration with the depicted subjects.
12. Nobuyoshi Araki.
Born in 1940 in Tokyo, Japan, Nobuyoshi Araki is undoubtedly one of the most prolific figures in contemporary photography. His exuberant production of works and photo books are the result of an extravagant artist working intensively and feverishly. He is best known for his almost pornographic sexual subject matter, depicting Japanese women naked in sexual positions, often tied up, resulting in strong controversy. The notorious Japanese fine art photographer is best known for provoking his audience, exploring arguably life's greatest urges: love, sex, and death.
11. Laszlo Moholy Nagy.
Born in 1895 in Borsod, Austria-Hungary, and passed away in 1946 in Chicago, Laszlo Moholy Nagy is arguably the most multidisciplinary artist from our list, but simply could not be omitted. The so-called proto-conceptual artist associated with constructivism and Bauhaus was a radical innovator, experimenting with cameraless photographs, which he called photograms. Moholy Nagy paved the way for abstraction to enter the realms of fine art photography. He opted to create photographs from unconventional perspectives and angles, discovering new expressive powers in contrast to its documentary powers. But that was not enough for the iconic artist, as he took things a step further by experimenting with photomontages in which he could layer photographs, combining representational elements with radically new abstraction.
10. Shirin Nishat.
Born in 1957 in Qazvin, Iran, and currently residing and working in New York City, Shirin Nishat is an internationally lauded contemporary photographer examining the effects of Islamic fundamentalism and militancy in relation with the personal and/or the political. By manner of her black and white photographs, most often depicting veiled Iranian women, Nishat tackles issues of femininity, religion, identity, cultural history, and exile. She overlays her photographs with text in ink, juxtaposing religious texts with her depicted subjects.
9. Zanele Moholy.
Up next, we travel to South Africa, Johannesburg to be more precise, where Zanele Moholy, born in 1972, works and resides. Moholy is a visual activist, and her weapon of choice is fine art photography. In her works, the South African artist documents and depicts the LGBTQI identity of today in South Africa. She fights the stigmatization, discrimination, and ongoing violence against LGBTQI identity. She aims to rewrite the black, queer, and trans visual history of South Africa and beyond.
8. Robert Mapplethorpe.
Born in 1946 in Queens and passed away in 1989 in Boston, Robert Mapplethorpe is one of the best-known American photographers of the second half of the 20th century. He rose to fame during the 1970s, first with his Polaroid camera, followed by large-scale black and white photographs during the second half of the very same decade, which would be his most popular, strongly recognizable trait. Mapplethorpe depicts still lifes, interiors, nudes, self-portraits, and portraits of his friends and true icons. Think of Patti Smith or Andy Warhol. The American artist also depicted sadomasochistic or homoerotic subjects, marked by a decent proportion of provocation, but above all, pure power and beauty.
7. Candida Heuver.
Up next, we have Candida Heuver, born in 1944 in Eberswalde and currently residing and working in Cologne. Heuver is a German fine art photographer who is best known for her empty architectural interiors. She creates large-scale and meticulously composed photographs filled with clear colors, architectural forms, and mathematical repetitions in her composition. These harmonic interiors are most often churches, libraries, museums, hotels, concert halls, or palaces, all public spaces and rooms. However, they are being portrayed in an empty state, creating an alienating tension due to the absence of its human inhabitants. Doing so, Candida Heuver examines the psychological impact of the design of a space or a room, and its often disturbed relationship between its function and actual use.
6. Andreas Gursky.
A similar aesthetic principle can be found within the works of our following artists, which is none other than Andreas Gursky. Born in 1955 in Leipzig, Germany, Gursky is best known for his large format, high-resolution photographs in which he invents new worlds from existing elements. The artist uses methodical observations to interrelate micro and macro structures by an overall organizational principle. Recurring subjects are cities, interiors, crowds, or commercial products, in which his hyper-focused scenes depict both background and foreground, as sharp as a knife, creating an almost vertigo effect due to the vast amount of visual information, which can only be processed due to its harmonious organization in the photographic composition.
5. Nan Goldin.
Up next, we have the iconic photographic oeuvre by Nan Goldin. Born in 1953 in Washington and currently residing and working in New York City. Nan Goldin is an American artist who revolutionized fine art photography with her deeply personal portraits, refusing any filter at all, visually and concerning the subject matter. Goldin established an internationally reputed oeuvre throughout the 1970s, as she explored gender and the traditional conventions of normality. She photographed her direct surroundings in order to give them a voice, documenting her life and her friends, or different communities who would fall outside of the aforementioned conventions and normality. With her photography, she raises awareness for marginalized groups and the war on drugs, a battle she witnessed at first hand with her camera in her hand.
4. Man Ray.
As with the aforementioned Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, we encounter another rather multidisciplinary artist, but who is too influential to be omitted. Born in 1890 in Philadelphia, Emanuel Ratnitsky, better known as Man Ray, passed away in 1976 in Paris, France. The Dadaist and Surrealist enforces his spot in this list with his ryographs, the eponym for his photograms produced in a similar manner as the aforementioned Laszlo Moholy-Nagy. He rose to fame with these striking and unique black and white photographs, marked by technical experimentation, pushing the boundaries of avant-garde photography.
3. Thomas Ruff.
We enter the top 3 of our list with Thomas Ruff. Born in 1958 in Alam-Hammersbach and currently working and residing in Düsseldorf, Germany, Ruff explores the possibilities of the medium of photography by manner of experimentation. It is to say, the German fine art photographer does not pin him down to one specific camera, process or printing technique, pushing not only the boundaries of his own oeuvre, but of contemporary photography in general. Besides a wide array of techniques, both analog and digital, Thomas Ruff is also known for a very strong variety when it comes to his subjects. For instance, we encounter abstract forms, traditional portrait photography, landscape photography, pornographic images, architectural photography, and more.
2. Cindy Sherman.
In second spot, we are pleased to present you Cindy Sherman, born in 1954 in Glenridge, New Jersey, and currently residing and working in New York City. Cindy Sherman established herself as one of the undoubted most important and most famous photographers, being a leading figure of the so-called pictures generation. She received international recognition since the late 1970s, building her photographic works upon the self-portrait and the female self. Her iconic images of the Untitled film series are known across the globe, depicting herself implementing the self-portrait in an artificial and stereotypical context as a female character. Doing so, she creates a tension between the self and the collective psyche, which is enforced by consumer culture and the modern obsession with youth and beauty.
1. Wolfgang Tillmans.
We top off our list with arguably the most important contemporary fine art photographer in the world, Wolfgang Tillmans. Born in 1968 in Remscheid, West Germany, and currently residing and working in London, Wolfgang Tillmans is best known for his mesmerizing fine art photographs, capturing his surroundings, observing nightclubs, his friends and family, still lifes, landscapes, and everything in between. Tillmans was the first photographer and non-British artist ever to win the renowned Turner Prize in 2000. He rose onto the international art scene by documenting the emerging rave culture in sweaty nightclubs. However, his works are not limited to the raw depiction of reality and subcultures, as the German artist is in an ongoing search for the enigma, the beautiful, or simply a new problem to solve visually. Doing so up to this very day, Wolfgang Tillmans defies categorization, making his works as elusive as his intriguing photographs. We are very curious, who do you believe that are the most important fine art photographers in the world? Feel free to let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching today. Feel free to watch our video on the top 20 most famous contemporary sculptors in the world next, and feel free to consider subscribing. to stay posted on more contemporary art. Bye.